Great seeing you. How are you doing? How's the family?
Everybody's good. We just got back from Germany and we were touring, but we took advantage of the fact that it aligned with our son's spring break. So we brought him along, and that's where my mom is from. So I actually got to go to the place where she was raised, Kassel, Germany. And it was great. We're tired, but we're happy.
Oh, sounds great. I got to ask you though, how have things been since I don't want to say the end of the pandemic because really it's
Yeah.
still out there, but as things slowly started opening up, how were things before, during, and after?
Yeah. So things, as you may know or recall, Rudy, were really ramping up before pandemic hit. I just won the
Yeah.
Juno in 2019. And what's awesome is you get to ride that industry wave for a while.
Mhm.
And so I was getting a ton of bookings. Things were really picking up for me in Europe, which has been another key market for me. I was scheduled to headline the biggest jazz conference in the world, Jazz Ahead.
That's right.
Yeah, I was supposed to be on Q. I was going to, finally get the Q interview with Tom Power. Paste Magazine was going to do a thing. And I'd been, I was about to get awarded another SOCAN prize. And the red carpet event was scheduled to coincide with it just happened to coincide with the release of Out of Dust, which was in March
Yeah.
of 2020. But all of that, as you know, all of it got canceled. And so we went from like this amazing kind of upward swing, this momentum, to just, it felt like falling off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I remember during pandemic, I think we were all just sort of bearing through. And so, we were relatively okay. We didn't, I mean, I still, to my knowledge, have never caught COVID. Ben and Josh finally did get it last fall. But, we've done fairly well health-wise. We've been able to keep our heads above water. But to answer the third part of your question, before, during, after, the after has actually been harder. It's been harder. Do
I
you
believe that.
agree?
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. In fact, I know, and jumping in there myself, work wise, I
Yeah.
was actually doing more during the pandemic than I have been after this.
Yeah. There's some interesting, it's almost like it's finally caught up with us. Like it's like, okay, and I mean, not to be so intense as part of this interview, but it's like, we also have the war that we're dealing with now as
Yeah.
added to the mix that's affected, world economics, and we could go on, especially in Europe. I mean, that's very, it definitely has affected me as a touring artist. And it's something that I've been hearing about a lot from promoters in Germany and my agents over there. And yeah, and so that combined with the after effects of the pandemic, it's feeling like we still have a lot that we need to overcome, but we're remaining optimistic, Rudy, because that's what we do. That's who we are.
And there
Exactly.
and there's as much as we would love to see you touring Europe, we're glad you're going to be doing something else as we speak because you have a big event coming up. It's a big celebration and it's somewhere where you and I call home.
Mhm. Our alma mater, Humber College. I was so excited when I got the phone call to do this event. Humber has a very special place in my heart, and I think it's the same for you. Anyone who I talk to who's a graduate of whatever program, most just seem to have nothing but great feelings and very fond memories. And I'm absolutely in that category. So when I was asked to be a part of this 50th anniversary celebration and get to collaborate with Pat LaBarbera, who was one of my teachers when I was there as a student 20 plus years ago, Larnell Lewis, who, is several years younger than I, but is also a graduate and now teaches at the college, Kevin Turcott, Kelsley Grant, Andrew Scott, like everybody who is such an important part of the fabric of Humber College. And it's, I don't know if you would say legacy, but just Humber through the years,
Yes.
through the decades now. It's just so special to see these people that represent these different parts of my history and formative years come together as part of this celebration. It is so special. I will never be part of a concert like this again. This is a one and only thing. So it's pretty awesome. And it's happening Friday, March 31st at the Lakeshore campus.
What is the show going to be like? Like, what are you going to be performing? What is going to be happening? Do you know yet?
Yeah, so there are 3 pieces to it so far as I know. There's a big band component, I believe, up front,
Mhm.
I think comprised of students and maybe more recent graduates, and then, like, Lauren Falls, who was just nominated for a Juno,
Yes.
she's in the mix, and, some incredible young players. And then, I get to do my bit. I'm sort of being billed as the headliner, and that'll be a 50-minute set with Larnell and George Kohler on bass, and special guests Pat LaBarbera, Andrew Scott, Kelsey Grant, and Kevin Turcott. And that'll be a combination of original songs from previous releases of mine, but also a couple of tunes from Your Requests, the new album that I'm releasing in May, which is jazz standards based. So it's something I haven't done in a very long time, but really will work well, I think, as part of that program, since it's a jazz program. And then in the second half, there will be an all-star band put together that features mostly Humber faculty, and I get to sit in on a couple tunes as a singer then. So it's going to be a really fun smorgasbord.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about this upcoming new album. I want to get a little taste of that. What were your days like in Humber? And I don't want to put a timestamp on it, but can you give me a round figure and when you went? Because,
Oh yeah,
of course, I'm much older than you. I graduated in 1985.
I mean, you look amazing. Man. So that's astounding to me because I was born in 1980 and I can hardly wrap my head around that. So I went to Humber in 98, graduated in 2003, actually as part of a program they have with, I think it's called Thompson River University. I can barely remember now. That was the means by which they would offer a bachelor degree. But anyway, so I was there for that time frame, and it was amazing. I mean, it was also not all easy
No.
because it was, you know what like you leave home, you go to college, everything is so different and so new. It's exciting, but also challenging. And I experienced just the full gamut of emotions while I was a student there.
Were you like me, where if you could find studio time or anything like that, it didn't matter if it was 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, you just went in there because you just loved what you're doing. And of course, for people who are asking, for me, it was radio broadcasting, but I love recording and I love creative things.
Yeah, they've always had such great resources, and
Yeah.
Humber as a school, I think, has made it one of its mandates to always, to give students the opportunity to experience real world type scenarios, like you said, to go into the studio, to go into a world class studio and record. And my memory really, when it comes to the late night sessions, involves just practicing in cubicles, and
Yeah.
you saw the most dedicated people. So there's a fella named Jacques Cuba Seguin, who's now
Mhm.
in Montreal, and amazing trumpet player and composer. And he's doing great things and has been Juno nominated a couple of times. He was always there. He was like the last guy to leave every night, and I'll never forget it. And go figure, he's done really well. And I imagine he has the same work ethic now that he did back then. But those are the things that I remember really fondly, because you just, you kind of got to see who was really serious about music right out of the gate. And of course, Larnell is, top among the heap.
I
So,
I re-
yeah.
I remember those cubicles, and something I never told Humber. I always grabbed a locker over in the music area, and I never got caught. So I always had a locker for free, because you know how they
That's
could, yeah, they could mark it and like tell you get out of there if you haven't paid for this. I always went over there, never got caught. It was great. I loved it.
that's now I have to ask you, because the one thing I do recall, though, even though we did the late night thing,
Uh-huh.
I feel like there were security, there were certainly security guards, and I thought there was a time, like a curfew, as it were, where you had to be out of the building. And I don't
See,
remember ever pushing that boundary, but
I never see, and that's just funny that you say that. I can remember being there like 3 in the morning and never being bothered. So I don't know
right,
if security ever, but remember, this is 1985. Things were a little bit more
right,
freer in those days.
right.
So maybe they had changed things up, but I remember the cubicles. I remember the lockers. I just remember everything about it. And like I said, it was such a great experience there. When you won the Juno Award, did you think back about the days of being at Humber and your travels throughout that time leading up to finally winning that Juno? And congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. I did, because Humber does the most amazing job honoring its alumni. As you know, they just, here I am, like nearly 25 years later, and it doesn't matter what the milestone is. I always get like Humber branded boxes, socks, cookies, and a little flag, and like, just they're, I feel like they're always sending presents for special occasions to say, hey, we're here and we've got your back even now as an alumna. And that to me is really touching. I feel like I'm still part of a family. And I don't know if that's true for everybody, in terms of their alma mater. And so I feel particularly blessed that Humber has been so good to me, even in the 2 decades that have passed since I left. And yeah, and I think that's partly their incredible alumni folks, like people who are on
Yeah.
that board, if you call it a board, and just make sure that alumni are still being recognized, or still being brought back in to mentor, to tell their story, because it is like a multi-generational family, I would say, right, at its best, across fields.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was lucky enough to get inducted into the Humber College Hall of Fame for radio broadcasting. Yeah, in 2013, I do believe. So
Awesome.
my picture
Congratulations.
still floats around there. And yeah, I got the socks, I've got the mask, I've got shirts.
Right,
So I know
exactly.
exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
It's a very special place. It really
very
is, which is
special.
why whenever the graduation comes up, I'll always send a note going, "Hey, if you guys want me to say something real quick, I will," and I'll send them a
Oh,
little video and just congratulating them because I want people to know. To me, Humber is the best. I always say
they're
Humber
the
forever.
best.
You know,
They're the
and
best.
absolutely, and Humber Hawks rule. Yay!
Ah!
Um, but as we continue this journey of yours, we already mentioned earlier. I want to get back to it. New album coming out in May.
Yeah.
Again, what's the album called? And what's the feel on that? What are we going to be getting in this?
Yes, so I, for a long time now, well, since 2013, so 10 years, have been interested in what my followers and audience members want to hear musically. And so I started this thing called the Request-O-Matic. And the idea was anybody could request any song they wanted to hear. There was no restriction on genre. And so then when I was thinking about my next move as a recording artist, I have actually a second album coming out in November, which is crazy. And it's all original songs. So that's something we're going to be going into the studio to record this spring while we're simultaneously releasing Your Request. And so Your Request, the name of the album coming out in the spring, is, as you might assume, the product of requests that came in, but this time over social media, and with the Great American Songbook, jazz standards as the focus.
Right.
So really going back to my roots as a jazz musician. The Great American Songbook really is, forms so much of the jazz that you still hear today, right? The classics, whether it's Ella Fitzgerald, or someone like Katie George, who just won a Juno for the second year in a row. She's an incredible writer, but she also definitely, covers all kinds of stuff off from the Great American Songbook. And so yeah, so I asked people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram what songs they wanted to hear. I got 150 requests. I had
Wow.
to choose 10. Larnell is on the album. My husband Ben co-produced it, and he also plays some drums. Manino Costa plays percussion. He recorded in Rio de Janeiro, and a couple of great all-star guests. Emily Claire Barlow sings on one track.
Oh
Kurt
wow.
Elling, yeah, Kurt Elling sings on a tune. He's a bit of a jazz star. From the US, an amazing harmonica player, Gregoire Marais, is on one track. Anat Cohen, beautiful clarinetist. Kelly Jefferson plays sax. George Kohler plays bass. And Katie George actually will be on my next single, which comes out April 14th. So lots going on, lots to promote and get out there. But it just feels so good to be active again, because I do feel like for Ben and I, even though we can do so much from home, my husband and I, there was a bit of a lull for us while we were bearing through pandemic. And now we're absolutely in the creative zone again.
Absolutely love it. Just curious as we look more forward, and usually this is around the time you start thinking about it. Any chance for Christmas music gonna be
Yeah.
recorded? Ah, I saw
Oh,
the look.
yeah. So that's the November project. It's called Winter
Ah,
Songs. And we just debuted it at Kerner Hall. It was amazing. We had an almost sold out house and it was terrifying, Rudy. Terrifying. So debuted a suite of songs that I wrote at the Banff Center, winter themed, very Canadian. There was a
yeah.
dancer in the mix, a string quartet, George Larnell, my husband, and then Jane Bennett actually was playing flute and saxophone. So I may have her join me on the album. We'll see what
Oh, I'd
happens
love to
there.
say hello to her because I have tickets for the show, just so you
Yeah.
know. So I cannot wait to be down there. Let's jump back to the show itself too. I've got my tickets, so I'm thrilled
Yay.
on this. But how can folks get tickets? Because people need to know this is open to the public. It's
Yes.
not just people who are just Humber. It's everybody.
And just for perspective, so when I played Kerner Hall, tickets were as much as $92. And for
Uh,
this wonderful Humber show, it's as low as 10. So if you're a student, tickets are $10. If you're a senior, I believe they're 20. And for
wow,
adults and everybody else, it's 30. So it's just
wow,
$30 to see Larnell, Pat LaBelle, like people who, in my view, are iconic, young and old.
yeah.
And then, I'm going to do my thing. And really, it's the first show of this nature from me in a very long time. I didn't play Toronto at all throughout pandemic. Kerner
Mhm.
Hall was my first show in like 2+ years in Toronto, and actually almost 3, Rudy. And that was all Christmas. So this is really my first time back with, songs from Out of Dust, the Juno winning album, Laila Biali, and then the new stuff coming out in May. So it's going to be so much fun to have, a lot of people on stage, again, something unique, a real celebration of Humber's place in the educational space, as well as, again, their legacy, all the incredible talent they've developed and pushed out into the world. So yeah, get your tickets. You can get them on my website, lilabiali.com/tour. Or Humber actually has an Eventbrite link. I'm sure you can find it if you
Yeah.
search Humber College 50th anniversary spring showcase Eventbrite, and you'll find, like, the best place is just either my social media, I've got it there, or also my website.
I'll tell you something. I've got a very, very busy schedule. Okay. But
I know you do.
when I got the email about this, it was almost like it was a no-brainer because you and I have talked for a long time. We know that we are a part of the Humber legacy.
Yeah.
The fact that I get to see you perform for the first time live for myself, and it's at Humber, I would move heaven to earth to make sure I was down there for that. I couldn't ask for a better combination to be able to go back home, to see you perform there, to be at Humber. To me, this is the best kind of way to kick off spring. So I'm happy for you. I'm excited for you.
You.
But I'm a little excited for myself too because I get to be part of all this also.
That's awesome. Well, and that's the thing that's so beautiful is you've been so generous also in amplifying the voices and the stories of Humber grads. And so you are contributing so much to the fabric of that Humber community. And so for us to have you there is not only an honor, but also a beautiful full circle moment. So I'm so glad you can join us, Rudy.
I cannot wait. Look, so we'll do the show. Let's do another interview so we can talk more about the release
Woo,
of the new
woo.
album in May. And then
Yeah.
let's talk again as we go into the Christmas season. Folks, start buying your Christmas gifts. It's going to come up fast. And put your orders in for your new Christmas album too. But either way, for now, I cannot wait for this. Congratulations on all of your success. Thank you so much for all the interviews that we've done over the years. And I cannot wait. We get to go home and we get to go home together. I love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rudy. We'll see you on March 31st.